Hey gang, JaimeAstin's here. I'm going to show you all my process of cleaning and conditioning a reel, and we're also going to do a rod tip repair. The first thing we're going to do is a rod tip repair. This is an old, unused, cheap fishing rod. It was a gift many years ago. I don't think I ever used it, and but I'm going to use the rod tip off of it for another rod. I like to keep old rods or pieces of one, especially if you broke one. I like to keep the guides off of those and reuse them whenever needed. So what we're going to do is remove this one. Now, a lot of times they have glue and they have string wrapped around the tip. What we're going to do is just remove that. You can probably use like a cigarette lighter or something. Kind of heat it up. I'm just going to crack it some. And it didn't happen this time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can get the tip to pull out. But when it doesn't, what we're going to do is just get it all the way close down, and then we drill out the rod tip. Probably want to wear safety goggles or something. This little fiberglass and everything is just, you don't want to get it even on your hands. Wear some gloves if you need to. Okay, so here's the rod tip. Usually I like to cut some of this fiber off without so much making it run down and split down the other end. I just use a straight blade. So, see how well it fits in. Alright, it's a pretty good fit. So, that's how it will look. So, I take my super glue and just fill the hole up with glue. Uh-oh, it's even overrunning, which is okay. Oh yeah. At this point, make sure that you got everything lined up the way it needs to be. One of the things I've done in the past is I'll use a little heat shrink on it. So you want to put your heat shrink on before you put your tip on it, and then you can have a nice clean finish once you're finished. And it won't look so custom or like a repair job. The rod is repaired. A few inches shorter than what it was, but it's fishable. Now we're going to talk about reel conditioning and repair for spin cast, open cast reels. So what you want to do is just take off the drag knob, just as if you were making the drag really light or loose. Just keep on twisting it until the cap comes off. Open your bail, pop the spoon off if the line is still on the rod. At this point, pull this little gear cog off, just pull it off, and notice that there is usually some type of piece of plastic or something on the top of it to keep it in place. So take it all off as one set and don't lose it. Remember what side was up. Now at this point, there's always a screw right beside the nut. So you want to remove this screw first. Once that screw is removed, remove the nut, but to remove it, you're going to go clockwise, okay? You're going to go clockwise. Just take a couple turns. Boom. At this point, you can take the whole bell off. Now we're down to the really the gearing of it all. And what you have in here is, you can see the ball bearings a lot of times. So what we're going to do, and already from the water being inside this reel, this already start to stick and rust a little bit. So we're going to re-grease it. That's really the drivetrain of the reel. And that is a spot that you don't want messed up and sticky. So I unscrewed the reel handles. I guess I should have showed you all that, in case you didn't know how. Just uncap the end that you're not reeling with, and then just pull this out. Now some reels, if yours is in the left right, it doesn't have where you can switch between left and right side, just unreel the reel the opposite direction of reeling, and it will eventually start to come off. So now we just have the drivetrain, and we can take things off a little bit more than that and start to repair parts if you need to, but there's no need right now. We just want to really get to those ball bearings some way, one way or another. I don't use WD-40, but what I have used is this silicone lube. But what I find even more better than that, because with the silicone lube I found out that I would have to go back and do it a little more times than not. It's a lighter grease. You might want to use it. What really has been working really nice for me is bicycle chain grease oil. And what this is from a brand called Finish Line. It's a wet bike lube. So it's a synthetic lubricant, and it's used for all conditions like rain or snow, things like that. So you can use this on your bicycle chain. And that's what I've been using on mine now. After I clean it up some, it's only about $5. But this grease right here is really, really nice. And one of the biggest reasons why I like it is that, of course, your reel is going to get wet again. So this stuff is it doesn't let the water really stay to penetrate. Whereas the other stuff will wash away, this will stay on it. So what we're going to do is just dab a little bit on the ball bearings. And anywhere else that there is a moving part, and when you reel it in. So I like to see when and where I reel it in. I'm going to put just a little bit inside of here. Because what this will also do is keep almost like a seal, wherever the grease is, it's going to keep the water from re-entering for the most part. Get in there. So we're going to put the handle back on. Sewn good and tight. Now just reel it in. Already it's starting to work. Whereas that reel beforehand was starting to stick from the water inside of it, that lube is just working in. So we're just going to work that in. If you have a little switch where you can change the reverse of the reel, switch it and reel it in backwards. We just want to work this in. The cool thing about this bike lube is that whereas when you use some type of spray grease, it will just leak and get everywhere. This won't. It kind of sticks in one spot and it gets where it needs to go and stays. But you still don't want too much, so after you got it all good and it's in where it needs to go to, just kind of wipe up any that's bubbled up or surround. So now we're just gonna, that's pretty much it. We're gonna repeat the steps of putting it back together. There we go. Even put a little grease on that. Alright, we got that on. Time to put the nut back on, counterclockwise. You don't want to make it too tight. Pretty much you just want to get it back to that spot, first spot where it starts to stick, where it locks in place, because that's where that screw that you're going to replace, it has to fit back against that in that same spot. Alright, nothing is overly tight, it's just precise. And now we put this back in place along with the little plastic piece or whatever piece keeps it locked down on there. Stay gears in place, open the bell again, put your line back on it. Cap your drag. At this point I don't usually put it on too tight just because I'm usually going to put it back on my reel, on the rod. So I want to be able to pull the line off the spool as I need it. And there it is. This thing was dropped in the lake, fished out, broke the tip as I retrieved it. Now the tip has been fixed and the reel has been conditioned enough to be used again. Everything is good. Alright, hope you all enjoyed that. And now I'm going to be reconditioning these guys. Now these rods, I use these in more of a fresh saltwater mix. So like this is a surf rod, things like that, but both of them are used in waters where there's a little salt water or mostly salt water. And it's time to get those guys conditioned up for the season. So we'll start with, let's see which one. Same concept, take the drag cup off. You see I'm leaving it on the rod. I'm going to show you how in a second. Unscrew the drag cap. Go ahead and flip the bell open. Grab the whole spool. That thing is ready to go off. It should just... There. Put the spool down because you still have line on it and line on the reel. Okay, line is still on the rod, right? It's going through the spool. At this point, we'll take the reel off. So that way you can leave your line still on the rod without having to remove it. Okay, so now grease and lube done. Let's just put this back in. So